had a tutor when I was like 9 or 10 years old because I didn't care about school.
You're telling me as a child you didn't care about school and then you grew up to do school as your job?
Yeah.
Huh?
Sometimes that's how it works out.
Huh?
I got put in a special needs class because I didn't care about school because they thought I had like behavioral needs or learning disability, but I just didn't care about like maths or science. So they put me in the special needs class and then said, "Oh wait, she's not special needs. She just doesn't care."
What the fuck, dude?
And then they put me out of the special needs class, and then they started teaching history, and I was like, "This is sick."
I love history.
I have a question about like enjoying history.
Yeah.
Okay, how can you enjoy something without like knowing whether or not it's factual, right? Because there's like first-hand sources and second-hand sources and blah 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 blah. But like even the first-hand sources, they fucking lie, right?
Yeah, but that's what's interesting about history, like, because nothing's truly factual.
That's annoying.
That's like what's great, because then you can compare and you learn a lot about humans.
But you don't know what's true.
Yeah, that's part of the discipline of history is interpreting, taking our evidence of history and trying to come up with an analysis or interpretation of what is real and what isn't.
It's kind of like literature. Like, it's just kind of like literature class, but like with how people view things that have happened. It's like reviewing.
Literature does have like quantifiably correct aspects to it. You could be like, okay,
Always.
like this is correct use of this.
Not always.
Not always.
It's art still, but there's like different ways you interpret it. You
But
know?
history, you'll straight up never know. Like there is no way to
maybe
fully
there's
know.
point of views. But there's like point of views. Like, the interesting thing is considering each point of view.
But you don't know.
I don't think it's kind of like a puzzle, right? You kind of have to dissect what evidence you have to try and come up with a conclusion that you think is the most correct.
But then
That's basically what academia is in history.
But then your conclusion can just get proven wrong, like instantly.
Yeah, that's how it works. Yes,
That's so
That's the
annoying.
fun of it.
that's like science as well.
It's like my favorite part when a teacher gives you a topic, like a professor gives you a topic, and then you take a point of view and like make a whole analysis, and then you go debate it.
Yeah, this
In
is
class.
academic. This is how academia works with like basically every discipline is that you have hypotheses, you have theories, and then it gets run through the academic rigor, and then if it's science, they can do experiments to see if it's correct or not. And
You're all masochists.
That's how it works.
You all enjoy suffering.
Interesting.
You all enjoy having absolutely no control over
Listen,
any of the shit that you're doing.
So you're focusing purely on the end result and not the journey.
Yeah.
Okay, but part of the joy is in the journey. It's not about the destination. It's about
how we got there. History's about how you get there.
It's about learning. It's about
Everything you could do, everything you do could be for nothing in the end.
that's life, baby.
Yeah, that's why history repeats itself. That's why it's so interesting, because it's like you learn all this, and a lot of people understand how we got there generally, and yet we're doomed to repeat it over and over.
Would you consider yourself a nihilist, Pippa?
Not particularly.
Okay. It's a bit of a nihilist way of looking at it, right? It's like, what's the point in doing anything if you could be wrong? Like, why bother starting to stream? Why join Phase Connect?
Because it works towards something greater, right? Like it ends up like these are all pieces that end
what
up.
if the company explodes tomorrow?
Well, Pippa would still exist because the internet is forever, and the idea of Pippa will still persist indefinitely.
Yeah, so
right?
it's about the journey that you've been on as Pippa.
Like there is no like how do I say it? Like right with all your history research, right? You can do all this research, right? You can put out a study, okay? Put out a paper, and then it gets proven to be incorrect, and all of your progress has thus been overwritten by somebody else in the future.
But you've still contributed to the human knowledge.
Yeah, you're still part of the journey.
By being wrong and being corrected, you've still contributed to the sum of human knowledge. It's not all for nothing just because you were wrong and someone else is right.
You have no legacy, though.
You do have a legacy.
No, you do.
To the academic knowledge of human society.
Well, who's
for example, like if you go back, the great philosophers and astronomers had ideas about space and the universe that ended up being wrong, but we still learn about them because they've contributed contributed to the sum of human knowledge. Without them being wrong, we wouldn't know what we know today.
But those are like mythical figures in the cultural consciousness. We don't just learn about them because of like what they put out. We learn about them because that they have been identified as like culturally relevant. You don't learn about everybody that came before them that built up those pieces that they then put together.
But you do actually in academia.
You do.
Well, if you're in college, but like the wider public.
Yeah, but like not the average person isn't like dissecting the historical or the historiography of a topic, right? To use your example, like the average person is going on Wikipedia and saying, you know, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
But in an academic setting, they do care about that. Like it is about those who came before us and those who put in the work to do the academic research. Like we still talk about historians like John Julius Norwich, whose work has been not discredited, but maybe like disproven and not used as the academic standard for Roman history, but he is still used when you talk about Roman history.
I don't know. It feels like you don't get anything tangible out of it.
Are you just focusing on having your name be immortalized forever by being correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, we still talk about Sigmund Freud, right? And I don't think Sigmund Freud's works are really used much, but we all know him, don't we?
Yeah, the cause and effect of things to me is the most interesting. Like all these things led up to this thing, you know?
Like Pippa, do you wake up every day and think about going to bed at the end? Because that's the end of the day, is you go to bed and you wake up again. Do you not think about what you're going to do during the day?
I don't really think about anything. I just kind of do it.
Have you never stopped to reflect about what you're going to do or what you've done?
Think about what I have to do before the end of the day.
Journey. That's about the journey then.
It's about by the end of the day, I want to be further ahead than I was at the start of the day.
Well, that's again the journey. That's not the destination. You're still on the process of getting further, but that's still the journey. It's not the end. Like you're not over at the end of the day. You have the day after and the day after, hopefully, for a long time.
Yeah, and you have left a legacy, so you might not find yourself interesting or whatever, right? But people who will come after are going to be interested in your history and how you got to where you are. That's entertaining. That's why people like history.
So using the same logic from before, like, does it only matter about the biggest content creators?
Broadly speaking, yeah.
Else?
I mean, you can get into like the nitty gritty of like, oh, well, this person inspired this person, and without this person being like the predecessor who established like this type of content, like this person wouldn't have been able to build the content or create the content that they created, right?
Matters.
Generally speaking, like, yeah. Like most people don't know who like the average YouTuber is, right?
So
but people
why
like Mr.
are you
Beast,
caring about what they think?
Well, it's the most interesting to me personally, right? Like people that breach the internet sphere and leave.
Then you like history, just not in an academic sense. It's the same kind of enjoyment. It's like your knowledge of like these YouTubers and stuff, like, you know, where they came from and stuff like that, and like how they rose to prominence.
I'm interested in like the utility of it, right? Like Mr. Beast is interesting because he's managed to get where he is, not because he managed to get to where he is, but because of like the tools that he has used to get there, right? Like his thumbnails and his attention to like specific analytics. Like that's
But that's his journey.
That's his journey. Same could be applied to the study of
war. I don't care about his journey for the sake of his journey. I care about his journey for the sake of like what are the tools that can be identified from it.
Do you not think that history doesn't leave tools for humanity?
I think it does, but when you're like diving in to the nitty gritty of all of it, right? Like there's those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it and shit, right? But there's diminishing returns after a certain point. Like there will never be diminishing returns in terms of like how much you're learning like from these people that can be applied to your own success, right?
I think that's the thing that it differs, because you're not at least for me, I'm not looking at history to contribute to my success. I simply enjoy learning about the cause and effect of humanity.
So just for fun.
Yeah. Like reading a manga. You know, you don't really read manga to truly, maybe you get a lesson out of it here and there. Yeah, for me. And I'd be willing to do it as a job, because for me it's like the same. You know when you're in kindergarten and you're sitting on the carpet and the teacher's reading you a story? For me, history class is like the adult version of that.
Really? even though it could be wrong.
The thing is, it might not even be factual. It's not. There's no true fact in history because it is always told with the lens of the person telling it. But that's what makes it interesting because you can see the same event from like different points of view and have completely different understandings of what happened, like depending on whose eyes you're looking through. And I think that's very interesting. Yeah. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, because you brought up manga, if you have, say for example, Pippa, a TV show or manga or whatever that you really enjoy, and then the ending is bad or not great, or it's a dissatisfying ending, do you disregard the entire rest of the show?
No, but I don't think that applies in the same way, right? Like with history, you're trying to understand what happened, right? And if you don't know why, or if you don't know what actually happened, then the conclusion, like it's not 100%, right? Like you're missing pieces here. Like you think that this is the cause and this is the effect, but if you don't actually know the cause, then even if you know the effect, like it doesn't, like you don't have the whole picture, right? So isn't that like annoying?
Not really.
No. It seems so annoying.
I think that's the fun of it. The fact that there are gaps and things still yet to understand from things that happened hundreds, thousands of years ago, or even 10 years ago. That's what makes it so interesting.
You're putting incorrect knowledge into your head. You don't know that it's incorrect at the time. You're not like consciously doing it, but
I don't think there's black and white. That's the whole point.
Well, I'm not saying it's black and white, right? But it's like if you think that this happened because this person said that it happened, right? Okay. It rained in August, and that's why in September the grass was greener. But then it turns out like in August, yes, it did rain, but only like in this other area. And the grass being greener in September was actually because they fucking introduced sheep or whatever that fucking shat on the fields and fertilized it. Right. Then you might like with a broader concept, with something more complicated, right? You'll be like, oh, the rain.
So what is the problem in this situation?
Yeah. What's the problem?
You're
because you were wrong and someone else was correct?
Not that somebody else was correct, but that it was like objectively incorrect in general, right? Like the reality of the situation was different. You gave yourself knowledge that ended up like poisoning like your worldview, right?
But it didn't do anything.
No.
Do we know about the scientific method?
Yes.
Yeah. So everything starts with a hypothesis, right? So what you're talking about is like, well, according to these texts, this year had a really, really intense, like it had a really bad harvest, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's like different hypotheses as to why that happened, right? Like the farther back you go, the muddier it gets, right? But you can also use other circumstantial evidence. So let's say they look around in the pots or that they found, and they found like certain grain, right? And then so you know that grain is probably what they subsisted on, and this grain needs a certain amount of like rain or whatever to make it grow, right? So you're like, oh, maybe it didn't rain that much that year. Will we ever know like the true reason unless it's like written down somewhere? Like, no, but it does give insight as to how life was back then. You know, even if it's not exactly what happened, you're like, it still gives you an idea. And humans are just naturally curious people, right? So we just want to know what it was like. Like, for example, China has a history of thousands and thousands of years, one of the oldest civilizations in the world, right? And it has a lot of written history. But a lot of that history is also written in myth because the emperors were seen as like gods, right? So the fun is parsing through the texts and figuring out what actually happened, even though the language depicts this guy as a god, right? It's like, will we ever figure out exactly what happened? No, but it's still fun to like think about and try to understand it the best we could given the evidence that we have. You don't like to look into the void, and that's completely valid. Like, not everybody enjoys looking into the void and thinking about it. And that's like completely valid, right? But a lot of people also do enjoy thinking about the void. Like, they're comfortable with that.
I hate the void.
You know?
I think the void should die.
It'll never die.
I think the void should die.
everybody, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to Low Effort Clips. That's right, Low Effort Clips, right here on YouTube.com. Yeah, and hit the notification bell. Yeah.